Tussen bosse en bome, tussen grense wag ons almal vermore. Maar op 18 was ons almal verlore. Hoe kan ons verstaan? En wie weet nou ons lewe, want net God alleen weet waar ons bewe. Want op 18 wou ons almal net lewe. Net een slag toe was jou lewe verby. Roep jy na my, roep jy my terug na die kaplyn, my vriend. Deur die jare het die wêreld gedraai. Toe ons jong was, hoe sou ons dit kon raai? Soek jy na my, soek jy my nou in die stof en jou bloed. Jy het gesê jy hoor hoe God na jou roep. Toes dit alles verby. Na al die jare, ver verlore, dat ons rond in ons dade. Met soldate leef met grense so skare. Hoe kan ons verstaan? Want die bos weet ons spore. In die donker bos was broeders gebore. In die donker saamgebid vir môre. Net een slag toe was jou lewe verby. Roep jy na my, roep jy my terug na die kaplyn, my vriend. Deur die jare het die wêreld gedraai. Toe ons jong was, hoe sou ons dit kon raai? Waar is jy nou? Is jou naam dan op ons mure behou? Jy was nooit vereer en niemand gaan nou oor jou lewe skryf en wat jy moet wou. En by daai mure staan ek vir ure. Maar waar's jou naam nou, my vriend? Kan gou nie verstaan. Jong soldate vergaan sonder rede, dra hulle die vlag. Roep jy na my, roep jy my terug na die kaplyn, my vriend. Deur die jare het die wêreld gedraai. Toe ons jong was, hoe sou ons dit kon raai? Waar is jy nou? Is jou naam dan op ons mure behou? Jy was nooit vereer en niemand gaan nou oor jou lewe skryf en wat jy moet wou. En by daai mure staan ek vir ure. En by daai mure staan ek vir ure.
Hey folks, welcome to Kaiser's Castle. Today I have a awesome guest. He is a guy I met when I took my first contract. Matter of fact, he was on a shark team. His name's Shuan. The song you just heard was Bok Van Broek Kaplan, which is the cut line. It's a folk song in South Africa for the SANDF, the South African National Defense Force. This gentleman, as a young man, grew up during that time. And the interesting part about it is he is the most skilled medic I've ever met. And I'll let you tell the rest, and we'll just flow with the show as it goes, brother. How's it going there, Sean?
Yeah, not too bad. Just finished up with the day, starting to mill out for the night. You know how it goes. Get through a 8 hour shift at work and go home and take a load off, man.
Oh, yeah. When I met you, I was working for SAIC. My first contract, by the way, leaving federal service. Um, that was, I think you remember this. I was with SAIC. I believe you guys were on the DynCorp Shark team. And the first mission we went out on to get me to where I was supposed to be, with your brother and my brother too, but you were closer to him than I was. I mean, I was close, but not as close as you. And this is actually something in memorial that we need to just shout out how good a guy he was and the situation that made him take a very sad decision. Your thoughts?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think a lot of guys don't realize what their time in that area did to them. Uh, I do remember that first mission though, the one that got cancelled, and one of the first conversations we had in that suburban
Yep.
was Shuff going, "Yeah, nobody's making a snuff flick at Shuff. I'll take my own, thanks, man."
Wow, you do remember that. Wow. I bet he did too. I bet you guys had jolly laughs, but the following day we made it
Yeah,
and here's the funniest thing nobody wants to talk about. How much South African technology, what was it, the Rui Cat, which we renamed the MRAP, which is now a common staple in America. But that was South
yeah.
African technology. Let everybody know about
Well,
that.
those V-shaped holes, those came off of the South African anti-mine vehicle designs. The Roy cut, the Casper. A lot of the South African armored vehicles for bush deployments were basically the predecessors of. I think they brought out a Rhino as well while we were up there, which had the V-shaped hole and the armoring with the shoot holes and kill holes and all of that. So yeah, a lot of that was South African technology. Um, remember getting you into the vehicle in that lovely green spot in the middle of Baghdad, and still you, me, and Vainant sitting just talking a lot of crap about everything that's going on and running you through what was going on in South Africa at the time. And yeah, that was a long ass day for one that took us nowhere, man.
Yeah, I think we passed the bridge and the tank, and we went maybe 3 miles down that road until one of those same Caspers with that anti-mining device, that little people who've seen the movie. Oh shoot, what's it called? Um, Transformers, where that one
Yeah,
vehicle has the gate-looking thing that comes off of it to scoop up a mine, was actually
yeah,
scooping up a mine. And
yeah.
you and
Uh,
Reinhardt, um, it was
Vainant.
awesome. Yeah, Reinhardt. I'm gonna mispronounce, brother. I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sorry. But yeah, no, he was an awesome dude, a monster of a man. You grow him big in South Africa. That's a fact. Um,
Yeah, well,
well, I guess we grow him big in America too. I'm just not as big as you guys. But anyway, so the point is we got turned back because of a very credible threat that was right in
hmm
front of us. And my wife doesn't even know this. This is something I'm putting out there to everybody. And we're rolling around in common stock up armoreds. But the V shaped holes, like you said, it was interesting. The Rhino runners that you brought up, those were actually They're South African technology, but they were built in Israel. A lot of people don't know this. And it's kind of sad how everything went because even like the MRAPs, we started building them instead of giving you guys. I guess initially we did give you guys the money on it, and then
Yeah.
but we outright with Blackwater bought your Mambas, and the Mambas are a badass piece of kit too. So if you want to talk about the kit, let's do that.
Yeah, the Mamba is not that popular a vehicle in South Africa because they tend to be a little top heavy at times. They develop a real terrible bloody body roll to them at certain speeds. But yeah, as you say, it's a phenomenal piece of technology. Keeps your ass safe in there. There's actually on, I think it's on YouTube. It might be a video of the Casper, which was the forebear of most of the armored vehicles that South Africa uses even to this day, where the designer and basically the inventor of the technology was sitting inside of it while they dragged it over two anti-tank mines with the rear wheels, and it tipped it up onto the nose, put it back down on the ground, and he got out of the vehicle with no damage.
Exactly, exactly. Now, the more important part. Let's get on to Reinhardt and talk about him for a minute. Just a memorial and talk
Yeah,
about his struggles coming back home. We both, well, we were all on Facebook at that time,
yeah,
uh, plotting and planning different jobs, and it got to him one night, and you were closer to the situation than I was. So whatever you're comfortable with sharing, please share. If you're not comfortable, just say fuck you, Shuff. You know that, brother. You always have that ability.
yeah. I know I got the freedom to do that, but it's been enough years that yeah, I can talk about it to an extent, man. At that stage, I'd finished up with my contracting. Well, the initial phase, the Iraq Badlands phase at Sandpit, and I was back home just running regular EMT shifts on the ambulances, and I happened to wander across the post on Facebook where they spoke about the fact that he was in hospital, and I reached out to one of the ladies that used to work in HR at DynCorp just before I left, and I asked her what was going on because she was the one that seemed to be in the know at that point, and I don't know. Due to everything that had gone on previously, the marriages that had failed from Iraq contracting and the other related stresses that Vainant was under, he just completely lost the plot and he'd eaten the barrel of his pistol. I know he was in intensive care on life support for a stretch. I couldn't tell you how long, and yeah, we know how that usually ends, and it followed the standard timeline. And yeah, that was the end of it. A really good guy, a lot of respect for him, and we lost a good soldier that day, man.
Oh, that's true. He was an epic man and had an awesome sense of humor. It was so funny. I meet you two. We're out at the back of the tent at Adnan Palace. I'll never forget it. By the Baghdad Police College
Yeah,
on the opposite side of that gate, if you remember how it was set up.
yep,
And you're running me through. You're like, hey mate, if something happens with one of the other cars, um, just grab that orange, or it was either orange or red bag at that time. I can't remember because they've changed color several times. And pass
oh
it
yeah,
up
I
to
was
me.
running with my own kit, man. That was a big bright orange bag.
Yeah. And I'll never forget him looking at me and going, "Yeah, mate." And you guys are like, "Sir, uh, get get. Here's your sodas if you want them, and here's your waters and this, that, and the other." And I'm like, "Guys, I'm a regular guy. I'm down with the play. Whatever happens, happens." And we
But I
were.
can tell you one thing: nobody makes a snuff flicker shuff.
That's right. We had a good
Uh,
time together. It was nothing but real talk in that vehicle. We didn't edit
Yeah.
ourselves. Even back then, they were trying to make people edit what they said about different things.
Oh,
But I'll never forget. Um, it was one of those things that when I went on to do PSDs and other things that I was doing, non-federal, non-military. Um, when I went on to do it, I took a lot from you guys, um, and that's one of the things about manliness is that you'll find some of the best instructors from just people you work with. And you'll see the good, you'll see the bad, and you'll dismiss the bad and bring out the good. And honestly, on that shark team, if you remember the entire layout, that's kind of my spill every time. I give everybody the real deal basic layout on this is what you're about to face or possibly could face.
yeah.
And the briefing was excellent. And so I always hold that as the top tier of my briefing. Your thoughts?
Yeah, you know what? It's something I learned as a medic, man. It doesn't help hiding the truth. I think if I remember correctly, that day I also said to you, you know what? If shit goes down and I offer you a bottle of whiskey and a smoke, make your peace. And I remember you laughing about that and saying to me, yeah, well, at least you're honest about it.
Yep.
Because, you know what? I can try and paint it whichever way I want, man. But the biggest disservice that I can give anyone is to be fake with them, you know? Being a man is being who you are, not trying to hide behind conventions and the censors and excuses, dude. You face up to it. You man up. You take a look at your situation. You either accept it and carry on, or you don't accept it and move on. You know, it's decisions that you have to make as a man for yourself, for your family, for even your friends in some cases. Um, if something is not conducive to a good environment, take my situation. About 2 years ago, wife and I decided that was it. We're just not going to sit up with the crime and the security issues and the poor education situation in South Africa. And we made that call. We did what we had to get our children out of that situation. They're now in a first world country where they're getting prime education. They're getting proper medical care when they need it. They're happy. They can play outside without bloody fence, without feeling like you're in a prison. I mean, the number of nights I've fallen asleep in this country with my doors unlocked, and it boggles the mind coming from the setup that I come from, because, you know, you get into that habit where you've got to walk through the house, you've got to check all the windows, check all the doors, make sure the gates are closed, make sure the security system's armed. Yeah, hell, it took us a couple of weeks to figure out where the keys to our bloody patio ranch sliders were so that we could lock them at night. You know, it's just a case of you got to make the decisions, and you got to be real, not only with everyone around you, you got to be real with yourself, man.
No, you're exactly right. One of the things that really blew me away with you guys was, and it's blown me away with a lot of other people from Europe, South Africa, which is, do you mind me saying you're from South Africa? If you do, sorry, dude, I just said
No,
it.
dude, I'm pretty sure I've already admitted it.
Yeah, okay. But the point was we had honest conversations, and it was still able to be done in 2005 on real
Yep.
threats. And this whole sophomoric thing, where oh, your trigger warnings, don't say anything bad about these people or this person or whatever. No, sometimes it's real, folks. And honestly, at that time in 2005, uh, when I was with you in Baghdad, it was alive and on fire. You know this. And
Yep.
when I went up to Mosul, I didn't. unfortunately didn't have you there, but we had some issues up there, and I saw it go sideways when it was just Americans rolling hard, thumbs on the 50s, but we had a moron on the 50. I mean, I don't want to get into the entire situation, but honestly, the funniest part about this, the only time I was wounded there during that time was uh, a fluke. It was a mortar round, and it just cut my belly open enough to expose an intestine. And you know what they did? They pulled my daggone because of that little cut. And honestly, I'll tell you this: I did not feel a thing. I walked out the embassy annex over there in Baghdad, if you remember that. I walked out that rear gate, went out in that little alleyway after the mortar attack. Uh, Only one of the three exploded, and it exploded a ways away, and it was just a ricochet. It just, like I said, just cut my stomach open a little bit. It wasn't a big deal. It was under the vest. But the one mortar landed right at my feet, bruh. And all it did was knock cement up. You know, I got some cuts on my legs from it. You know, just spaw. And I'm like, that thing went over there by the fire department. Remember where they stored the Saddam heads and all that different Saddam stuff right across? I walk out that gate. I think we had Gurkhas at the time. It might have been the... I might be lying to you. It might have been when they had the people from... oh, shoot. Why am I mind dumping it? Nicaragua. When they had the Nicaraguans guards. It might have been...
You had the Nicaraguans. We had the Ugandans down in Fallujah, I can tell you that.
Yeah. Yes, you did. And I walked out one gate, nobody said a word. Walked in the other gate, nobody said a word. Now I'm close to the fire department coming in that gate. And I see this dude loading up. He was a medic. He's loading up all kinds of IVs and stuff in the back of the medic. Remember the old breadbasket vehicles? And there's that mortar is lodged. The one that was dud right in my feet, pulled up like probably 15 inches of concrete, 12 inches, 15 inches of concrete, maybe 8 inches wide, bounced. I saw it happen. The other one detonated way far away, and it was just because of the shape of the T-walls, because I was backing up. That was the first one that should have killed me if it would have went off. It would have killed me.
Yeah.
And anyway, so it was just some small. It was nothing big. And so I get over there, and I see on that manned fire truck, because they had two manned fire trucks, if you remember right, and it was the middle one. And then they had the ambulance there. And because the way they pull them in, only the ambulance was pulled in forward. The other two were always pulled in backwards, the fire trucks, so they could get somewhere. And right in the light bar, brother, here's that mortar sticking out. And this dude's putting his shit up, the medic, in the back of that bread truck. And I look over at him, and I'm like, hey, you got a mortar up there. And he turns around, and his jaw drops. He's like, you're bleeding. As soon as he said that, and I put my hand down there, and I looked, I'm like, yeah, I'm leaking. Dude, the pain was fire hot. This is for a story, bro. This is after I got done spending 45 beautiful days with my wife in Europa and enjoying my vacation. It was the same night. And then the idiot pulled from the cash, pulled my, what do you call that? Because it cut me on my right hand side. It was the appendix. He pulled that out of me.
Yeah.
And guess what my statement says? Had to pull his appendix out. They covered it up. That's how it is with contractors. I try to tell people, they just don't want to listen. But run on with some things for a couple seconds, and I'd love to let everybody hear your thoughts on that.
It's medical side of it's always difficult, man. Especially in a war zone because contractors are technically they're expendable. The contractors are a dime a dozen in some sense. There's always another one trying to get in to get a contract. So yeah, if something happens and we lose a contractor, it's not a big deal. We do know that a lot of the guys, South Africans, Americans, that got injured with the El Sadir bombing on the should be the 9th of March of '05, if memory serves.
Yep, I was
A
there
lot of
too.
those guys suffered for how many years to try and get their DBA payouts when we were told when we went in that we were covered by the DBA. There were some of those guys that I know, like 5 years later, still hadn't gotten money out of it. I don't have names for you. I wouldn't exploit names in any case, but it makes you feel a little expendable. It makes you feel a little surplus to requirement. And yeah, it's interesting to me that the medics dropped about the mortar and then only noticed that you were bleeding. I suppose it's just combat reactions. My first reaction has always been to look at the injured, to look at the casualty, to take care of what's got to be taken care of. Yeah, that dud hasn't exploded. Might explode, it might not. I'm in the kill radius, but that guy's injured, so he's got to get treated. And you'll recall that's what I said to you. You know what? If you got to keep your head down, keep your head down. We'll take care of the danger. Try not to exit the vehicle.
You're exactly right. The funny thing is, it wasn't the medic. The medic was like, "You're cut," you know. So he takes me
Hmm.
to the cache, and I believe it was a scheme because honestly, I had a what they called after the appendix, quote unquote, removal. Um, I had what was called an incisional hernia doing another training thing, right? Guess where that came from? My own pocket. DBA denied it. Defense Base Act is when we talk DBA, it's Defense Base Act. It's supposed to be
Yep.
covered. But that was why they did that little cover up. And honestly, you said the Expendables. You and I both know, man. We've been in the Pipe Hitters Union for a long time. Before it was the Pipe Hitters Union clothing line. Remember that was kind of a thing we used to talk about.
Yeah.
And it's so much bullshit when I had to pay. I'll tell you what I had to pay: $26,000 to get that repaired. They put some. The guy who did it, Navy guy who actually, the doctor was. When I got there, they had just transitioned from the Navy to the Army at the cache in Baghdad,
Hmm.
and that exact day, they had just transitioned, and he was not there. We were joking around about it. And he's like, it would have been just fixed. It would have been no problem. But he put
Yeah.
a Gore-Tex liner, and he said, "You're bulletproof now." And I have been. I mean, I'm not seeing any bumps on my gut, but it's kind of funny how, they did really try to fuck people over this.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. And it wasn't just foreigners, they were doing it to Americans too, because DBA did not want to pay, and that's
Yeah. I don't
fun.
think the DBA knew what they were letting themselves in for with that. Shall we call it operation?
Oh,
I
I
think
would
at
definitely call it an operation. Yeah.
because I mean, take it moving away from the DBA, just moving to the veterans in the United States. How many homeless veterans are there? How many veterans are committing suicide due to PTSD? Yeah, not everybody can handle this shit. How many guys are
Yep.
going, or at that time, were going to Iraq as high school graduates? He's still green. He doesn't know anything. All he knows is finger banging old Susie Rottencrotch behind the fucking gym. And now he's being thrown into combat. He's being put behind a 50 cal. He's been putting behind the grenade launcher. you know, we're talking about kids that had to grow up real quick, and they don't know how to handle it.
They
Now they've
don't.
gone home, they're dysfunctional.
You're right. I agree with you. That's one of the things that I push with my son. I don't indoctrinate. Please don't take this way, brother. I never indoctrinated my son. But I told him he was watching these horror movies all the time, and I went through a phase at 14. I think it was just that year,
Hmm.
watching horror movies, and I said, "Son, what you don't understand is someday, and you know this, just from this is the beautiful part when you're in country and you're talking to brothers, you will meet again." I'll never forget the one time he came down to Jabal again. I can't. I think it was you where you were like, "We have to get a hat and a shirt from everywhere we go." It may not have been you. It may have been him.
It was me.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, and we both bought the same shirt that day, the yellow Al Jabel shirt,
Yep.
and with the Al Jabel hat.
Hmm.
And we went down there. You were doing something else, so it wasn't like we were on mission together or nothing. So I don't want people to take that from it. But we went down that little um, PX they had there on Camp Delta, and we both bought them, and we were laughing and joking about it. And it's just souvenirs. It's I did a video on this same channel where I show everybody this is. I actually had to buy a Conex box for all the deployments. I have to store this shit in boxes and bags. And a brother of mine, Rich, I'm not going to get into his last name. You met him too. You met him that day. The second day, not the first day.
Hmm.
Um, Rich is like, you're going to make more money than you ever have in your life, but you're going to live out of bags and boxes in tents, maybe if you're lucky, a chew. And it was the best advice that ever been given. And he
Yeah.
ended up going to work for fucking the UN. Your thoughts?
He got into the UN.
Yeah, he got his laissez passer.
Oh, isn't that just peachy?
Oh yeah, he's
You know what?
retired down close to where if this one job happens, uh, we'll all see each other again.
Yeah, we must do that. But yeah, you know what? As far as that goes, we know Rich didn't get there by luck. It was by design. It was because he worked his ass off to get there.
Oh
In the
hell
same way
yeah!
that we came back in one piece because we worked our asses off to stay safe. We watched one another's backs, and I'm not talking in general, the group that was there. I mean, we went and dropped you down south, and we went back to Baghdad, and we did what we did. But at the end of the day, if we weren't out there watching one another's back, being a part of the brotherhood, an active part of the brotherhood, which seems to fall apart the moment that you're out of country. But you know, if we weren't part of that brotherhood and observing and taking care of one another on all levels, even if it meant sitting down, getting hammered until 2 o'clock the morning before a mission because we had to send home a body in a box yesterday. You know what? That's how we handled it at that point. That's what we did. And that was hard, bloody work. Emotionally, it was
Hell
hard work,
yeah!
whether we admit it or not. You know, I suppose it's in the 80s, it wasn't manly to admit that you have emotions. And that is probably one of the things that fucked most of us up the most because we grew up in that era. We were taught cowboys don't cry. I'm not a fucking cowboy, man. I'm a soldier. There's a difference.
Fucking a, you're right on that. And that was the thing that I think we blazed on. I remember we actually had a talk. I think it was the second time you guys came down. You guys had to hang out for quite a while, if I remember right. Maybe a day,
Oh,
maybe overnight. I can't remember. But we were
yeah,
all
I remember that
pounding
mission.
some beers, some booze, and we're just talking. And all of us were like, the World War II veterans got through it because they were able to talk to other
Yeah.
veterans. At the VFW in America. I've got to be very clear. just for the American audience. You can talk about it with the South Africans. I'm sure it's very similar.
Hmm.
Um, they had blunt talk about this is what happened, this is what life was like, and if somebody was breaking down, we stepped to them. Now I failed. I mean, look, I can tell you epic stories of where, a matter of fact, I've done it recently, where a guy is wanting to talk about something, and we all try to get to a story about something that we want to try to bring it to that situation, but then it becomes about
Hmm.
us and it can turn the other person off, which is a sad
Yeah.
thing. And I'm as guilty as anybody. Trust me, man. I'm not perfect, and nor will I ever say that. I'm the only thing I'm an expert in is my opinion, and I will never say anything other than that. Well, you know me well enough. We've known each other.
Well, we
Fuck.
also know that opinions are like pubes. Every cunt's got one.
Exactly. And I'm the biggest cunt. My my axe wound is gaping. But but they're just funny shit, man. I mean, that's the whole thing is we all accept each other warts and all. And
Yeah.
the point being is if I don't know about South Africa or where you're at now, but there's always a grouping. Uh, the one thing I did like about the Expendables movies is it was very real on one thing. Everybody stuck together.
Yeah.
And we were the true Expendables. Nobody gave a fuck about us. You think the U.S. did? Fuck no. You think your country did? Fuck. At that time, if memory serves, the president at that time from your country was trying to classify you guys all as mercenaries so you couldn't even go back home to see your wife and kids. That was bullshit.
Pretty much. Hmm.
We'll run on that for a little while and let's suss this out for a minute.
Well, talking about the veterans and the groups, in South Africa, and I'm actually going to go back to prior contracting days. I'm going back to the guys that went to the Bush War at the age of 17 and 18 years old. Um, yeah, they came back from that and they were just expected to reintegrate into general life. There was no support group. They didn't really have medical insurance or VA cover as such, unless they actually stayed in the military force. They didn't have medical cover of any form other than government sponsored, which in the early or the 80s and early 90s was among the top government sponsored medicals in the world. However, now we're starting to see, my father's age people all coming down with some form of PTSD. They're drowning it in alcohol. They're burying it in drugs. They're, doing anything to try and shake it. They're having those typical PTSD symptoms: no sleep and hypervigilance, paranoia. No, South Africa, I mean, that's just general run of the mill, not being able to sleep comfortably and being paranoid. But I mean, we're talking about two extremes here. It's just simply a case of the South African government, and I'm now blanketing the whole South African government of the last 30 years, just try to pretend those soldiers don't exist.
Right. No,
And that, I think, is the biggest slap in the face that any country can give to anybody who has served them honorably, is to pretend they don't bloody exist.
no, you're exactly right. It's actually a shame. Um, you and I are not teetotalers. Neither was our brother, and that
Yeah.
that was the most shocking thing, I think, because he didn't reach out. Honestly, it was because he didn't reach out. I would never. This gentleman, I don't. We're not getting into last names or anything, but we had a page up on Facebook for a long time. I think Facebook took it down. Actually, I haven't been able to get
Hmm.
him back onto it. But this gentleman, at one time, decided fuck it, and decided, well, I know the solution. but I don't know. I honestly don't know if we didn't see the signs, all of us with him, or if it was just a spur of the moment thing. And if people don't think that doesn't leave a mark, it leaves a scar.
Yeah.
Because if you knew this man, he was funny. Uh, he he was an awesome dude, a big dude,
Mm-hmm.
uh, police officer in South Africa, actually. And the only conversations all of us ever had on, when we were ever together was everybody worrying about, oh, South Africa is going to classify us as mercenaries because we're working in Iraq. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, they won't, man. You guys can come to the U.S. You guys can hang out, Eh,
Yeah.
But I think there was, after that, I believe by the time everybody was moneyed up to do it, the not the president we have now, but the last president had a boner on for anybody who was coming from South Africa and happened to be of a different complexion. Your thoughts?
Yeah. I personally, there's so much you can get into on politics, both in South Africa and in the United States. It's like this Storm Area 51 thing, trying to hide something much, trying to distract everyone from Clinton much. I mean, the the news media, the politicians, if they're busy pushing some agenda, you always look the other way because there's something else they're trying to cover. And I've come to realize, and unfortunately, I think most of us realized it too late, that whole talk of the mercenary thing was trying to cover something else. It was trying to distract us from their attempt to try and make that income taxable in South Africa, or, they had some hidden agenda that we didn't pick up on at the time. Um, and as far as Vaynant goes, you know what? We've all been to dark places in our lives. We've all been to dark places more than once. And I think he just at that point couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think I think it was a moment of weakness. It was a moment of, I don't know, it was a moment of just giving up. And I'm sure that if he could have, he would have taken it back. I'm sure he would have decided not to if he could have just taken that extra 5 minutes. And I carry a fair amount of guilt about it because I, I'm honest with you, man. I lost contact with a lot of people when I finished up in Iraq. My initial phase of getting it out of my system was just to cut all ties and just rehumanize myself to come to realize that every crash of thunder isn't another bloody VBID going off.
You're right.
Every firecracker is not a rifle shot that's coming in my direction. Um, I suppose it was a form of PTSD as well. But my initial reaction was just to distance myself from everything and everyone. And when I did start making contact with Vainant, he seemed a lot more upbeat. He seemed the suicide was completely out of character for what I'd experienced of him up to that point.
Oh, it was the same with me. I didn't see anything going on with him. I think you and I kept in touch, and me and Reinhardt, um, we kept in touch. It came like you said, it was out of character. It was not going to happen. But anyways, I love that you brought up the whole bullshit of invade Area 51. I'm gonna lighten the mood now, brother, because I've done two shows on this, and
Yeah, I've listened to both of them.
yeah, the gayness of this shit is
Oh,
moronic, and but they don't get. I listen to. I'm not gonna blow hate on these people because they really don't know how a contractors work or anything. A lot of people don't know what we do, and there's a
yeah,
mystique to it, and and that's okay. It's whatever. People can believe what they want. but we're regular dudes. We have families. You do, I do.
Yeah,
Our end goal is to get back to our family and in one
absolutely.
piece, live to spend it. And they can say, well, you're shield, this, that, and the other. Whatever, man. We're cogs in the machine. So is
Yeah,
everybody. But did you put your ass on the line? And the point being is, these people, it really makes me laugh. These people, if they really think they can do what they Naruto run, we're gonna do that, and they won't be able to hit us. And it was a joke, anyways, going out. But dude, the federal government is actually taking this shit seriously. But even beyond that, dude, I would love to have you stop by Kaiser's Castle in person with your fam. You're always welcome. You know this. And
dude, you know it's on my hit list. You know it's in my planning to come and visit you. I just got to get my resident status sorted out and get a different color passport. That green passport just doesn't get me in anywhere easily. So I've got to upgrade that, and it's going to take a couple of years, but you know we'll get there, man.
oh, I know that. I know that. I'm not stressed about that. I was just saying the interesting part is there's such the military. Here's my experience from it. From the Army, it was big Army. The Marine Corps
Yeah.
got a little smaller from the Gulf
Hmm.
War. Okay? And contracting, it is a microcosm. And the
Yeah.
reason why is we all suss out who's the douchebags, who's a moron, who doesn't know what
Hmm.
they're doing. We all make mistakes. Like I said, I probably made mistakes when I probably made them with you at points. But we still understand each other. And
Yep.
because it is a, and we're not talking now with how America has done it. And honestly, this is one gig I'll give to the Americans on everybody from Bush on down to the current president. It's the only gig I'll give to the current president is they don't realize they have a gold mine of people that can do things, and yet they don't mine that gold mine. What they do is get these people coming right out of the military. They
Hmm.
want to go be called a contractor. Well, unless you can handle the logistics, the tactical, technical aspects of everything, honestly, it's almost old school hit shit, you know.
Yep.
Uh, that we all have that same ability. You know, we can handle everything. And the new contractors, oh, I get a paycheck because I stand guard on a static gig or I'm doing PSD. Uh,
Yeah.
that's contracting. That's entertainment. That's contracting. But you're not where contracting was at one point. Your thoughts?
No. Let's be honest. To be a contractor, you got to be a person. You got to be a man first. You got to be able to handle everything. If your vehicle goes down from mechanical issues, you got to be able to get under the hood, get that thing up and running, and keep going. You can't afford to. Oh no, I can just drive this thing. I don't know how to fix it. As you say, you got to be a jack of all trades. You got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to fucking patch where it's needed. You got to be able to talk. You got to be able to blend in. You got to be a chameleon, man. And the militaries all over the world are specializing. So this guy, okay, now you're just an infantry grunt. That's all you can do is point a rifle and pull the trigger. Yeah, you're a medic, so we're not even going to bother teaching you how to shoot. You're just going to be a medic. You're going to be a fobbit. You can have the flashiest weapon with all of the gadgets. You can have the most decked out fucking tech vest. You can have everything that's cool at the PX, but you can never leave the wire.
Yep. And that's the biggest point that really blows me away is that our time together, and yes, they've been brief, but everybody knows everybody in the game at a certain point. And
Yeah.
I know you don't have a lot of time, so we'll wrap this up quickly. But the interesting thing is we actually got to know each other, got to know our functionality, and I'm sure when you guys pick me up, you're like, "Who's this tosser?" This, that, and the other, and then I'm like, "Hey, if the play goes down, I'm down with it." And you go like,
Yep.
"No, no, sir, you stay in here," and I'm like, "No, uh, I'll be down with it if something happens." And testing happens, whatever. We're not going to get into everything, but uh, honor is built, people are built, friendships and brotherhood are built. They're not giving freely. And that's why it's such a violation sometimes when I realize, dude, I fell sometimes. And so do you. All of us do.
Yep.
And it's one of those things in man world we have to deal with. Females will never. I'll never forget. There was a female from Biop who I met, and she's from Indiana. I can't remember her name, but do you remember? I know the guy who runs it, but do you remember back in the day? There was a one person who kept track of deaths from contractors, and that was Farrell Jundy.
Yep. I
And
remember that.
yep, and he still does it. I mean, this dude does it out of love. He's not making any money. I mean, he has his post and whatever he does on his page, and maybe he gets some help, but whatever.
Yep.
The point being is, this lady died after I met her, and she was a full-on contractor. I'm not white knighting her because nobody would
Yep.
white knight this woman. She was just a badass bitch. And, these people that say, anyways, you know what I'm saying, man. It just, everybody has a role to play. We're all actors, honestly.
Yep.
If we look at it honestly, with every game I played, and we do live in the world of the ultimate game, it kind of knocks me out when I think about these morons that think, oh, this person's less than because they're this. You and I never thought that. None of
No.
us did. It's moronic.
Well, I mean, getting back to the morning that we picked you up, you might think we had that opinion, but I had learnt because I mean I'd been there a couple of months by that time, and we'd run a couple of missions. I had learnt to not judge a book by its cover, man. We realized that we were working with a bunch of vets, and a lot of the guys were really gung ho. So that's why the briefings were always so sincere about staying in the vehicle because you were our responsibility. And you'll also remember that I did tell you once you'd finally told me for probably the fifth time that you were down for it if shit went down. Just don't shoot me in the back. Put the lead downrange, and if we have to, we fuck them up.
There you go.
And
Yep.
that is because we came into that knowing we're working with veterans, we're working with people that have taken fire, we're working with people that have put down live fire under duress, and we had that realization. But you always go through the full on briefing to ensure that your side is clear. So if something does happen and there is an inquisition after the fact because your principal is out of the vehicle, you can't go and say, yeah, you know what, we told him probably 10 times to not get out the vehicle because you were our responsibility, whether you could take care of yourself or not.
Oh, you're
And
right.
I, I do remember that female contractor that passed. That was in December of '05, going into January of '06, that we
Yep.
had something like 13 memorial services in a 2.5 week period for contractors that had bitten the bullet in action, between helicopters that had been taken out and vehicle wrecks and any number of other fucking issues, be it shape charges, be it random shootings, be it ambushes. That was a fucking terrible Christmas season, but we made it through it.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. And this is an actual good stop point because, brother, we have so many more tales to tell. I'd love to
Yes,
tell
we do.
everybody about the embassy and the One Shot Bar and Grill. Pelton made it famous, but you know that was actually
Yeah.
a place. The bar we had on um, at Blackwater's little team house, um, the bar at Adnan Palace.
Not to mention the big blue gate.
Yes, the big blue gate. Oh, remember the 9? Oh, okay. I'll signal this, and you can you can tell everybody it's legit. There's this like 9-year-old kid, the big blue gate. This is where you bought your liquor. Okay, this was in Baghdad. This dude was like 9 years old. He'd open up the gate. His lazy father, or Budgie Bo or whatever he was, uh, would have him serve you your alcohol, i.e., give you your bottles of booze. And this was right across from. It was actually right across from the original embassy in Baghdad,
That's
if you
right.
remember right. Yeah. And he'd open the gate, and he was missing an eye. And I asked him, "Why are you missing an eye? You might have been with me that day." And he's like, "They threw a grenade over the door." And the kid spoke perfect English. He's like, and it took out my eye. And the funny thing was, after he sold you booze, he had a side thing he was doing. He's like, "Do you want CDs of porn? I have porn. I have much porn."
I remember that.
That little fucker was selling porn and booze.
But he was making money hand over fist, man.
Fuck yeah, he was, mate. That was fucking some hilarious shit. That motherfucker, 9-year-old kid, missing an eye, and he's like, "Oh, yes, here's your Jack Daniels, here's your Johnny Walker, here's whatever you're getting."
And here's your Debbie Does Dallas.
Yeah. Do you want porn? It's on CD. What kind? What kind? That's some fucking hilarious shit, bro. Looking back,
You do realize there are people that aren't going to believe the story.
it's true.
It's like telling them the one about the fucking PSD vehicles rolling back from buy-up that was just the back ends of the vehicles dragging nearly on the tarmac because they were so loaded up with South African beer that had come into duty free.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I remember. I remember. I remember. I think, if my memory serves, they had so much beer in the back that they popped the tires and they were running on their run flats and smoking. You remember that shit?
Oh shit, we should stop this conversation. We could start incriminating people.
Yeah, no, we're not mentioning names. But yeah, we're going to stop it. Folks, Sean, we have been brothers since 2005, actually, January of 2005.
Yeah.
That was absolutely a fucking amazing time. We were there for the Al Sadir bombing.
Yeah, we were.
We'll have to, a matter of fact, anyways, before the Al Sadir, I was working somewhere, and you know where I was working. Remember the hat I had on? They had to move me because certain people like to share pictures of places. So, yeah. Sometimes you work somewhere and somebody thinks they know what you're doing and they try to reenact it, and of course they're wrong. But man, that was a shit show at that prison. So yeah, we probably better stop this conversation now because I'm properly lubed.
It sounds like you have been into the old cough syrup.
Oh, I've definitely gotten into the golf. Oh, dude, do you remember Never mind. We'll talk about that another time.
Another time.
This has been awesome, Sean, and it's the first show, and we will go in more depth on other ones, and we'll laugh and joke. This, if you guys knew how funny, well, you're seeing it now, how funny Sean is. He is hilarious. He's a comedian, and I hope this launches another part of his life. The guy's epic. With that being said, I'm not going to play an outro song. I played Bok Van Bluk Kaplan, which is the cut line in the beginning. And, as a matter of fact, I will play it on the end. I'll play it on the end, brother. Because
I'm just going to give you a little story behind that song as well.
Oh, please do.
The word Kaplan has two different meanings. Kaplan, chop line or cut line, as you correctly translated the one side of it. The other side is the chaplain.
Oh, wow.
And the symbolism behind that song, if you go and watch the music video, it's regarding the guys that were in the Bush War and the meaning of the chaplain, which in certain cases was a rescue helicopter, in certain cases was covering fire, and in certain cases was the actual chaplain coming to see you as you were being ushered into the next life.
Yes, that does come through very clearly now that you explained it, because at the beginning, I take the meaning literally from the cap line, meaning the cut line. The cut line that divided South Africa from all the nations that were trying to invade it. They had a certain level of where they cleared it, and that's why it was called the cut line. But the Kaplan, after you saying that, I get it, because there's several parts of that video. Yes, please go watch it, and believe me, both Shuan and I, we can ride horses, we can run a trout line, we can do everything to an extent, but we're still soldiers. We were soldiers once and young. Do you disagree with that?
Once a soldier, always a soldier, man. You can take the man out of the military stays in the man.
That's right, brother. Okay, so I'm going to lead out with that, and if you want to stick around for a second, after, I think it's like a 4-minute song, I'd love to finish it out with you afterwards. Please mute. Thank you guys for stopping by Kaiser's Castle. Thank you for sitting on my big orange couch, enjoying your coffee, tea, soda, your adult libation, as I have been. I will slowly raise the drawbridge as you guys leave. With that being said, this is Bok Van Bluk Kaplan, and listen to it again with fresh ears. Shuff out.
Tussen bosse en bome, tussen grense wag ons almal vermore. Maar op 18 was ons almal verlore. Hoe kan ons verstaan? En wie weet nou ons leven, want net God alleen weet waar ons samal net lewe, net een slag toe was jou lewe verby. Roep jy na my, roep jy my terug na die kaplyn my vriend. Deur die jare het die wêreld gedraai. Toe ons jong was, hoe sou ons dit kon raai? Soek jy na my, soek jy my nou in die stof en jou bloed. Jy het gesê jy hoor hoe God na jou roep. Toes dit alles verby. Na al die jare, ver verlore dit ons ronde ons dade. Met soldate leef met grense so skare. Hoe kan ons verstaan? Van die bos weet ons spore. In die donker bos was broeders gebore. In die donker saam gebid vir 'n môre. En teen slag toe was jou lewe verby. Roep jy na my, roep jy my terug na die kaplyn my vriend. Deur die jare het die wêreld gedraai. Toe ons jong was, hoe sou ons dit kon raai? Waar is jy nou? Is jou naam dan op ons mure behou? Jy was nooit vereer en niemand gaan nou oor jou lewe skryf en wat jy moet wou. En by daai mure staan ek vir ure. Maar waar's jou naam nou my vriend? Kan hom nie verstaan. Jong soldate vergaan sonder rede, dra hulle die blaar. Roep jy na my, roep jy my terug na die kaplyn my vriend. Deur die jare het die wêreld gedraai. Toe ons jong was, hoe sou ons dit kon raai? Waar is jy nou? Is jou naam dan op ons mure behou? Jy was nooit vereer en niemand gaan nou oor jou lewe skryf en wat jy moet wou. En by daai mure staan ek vir ure. En by daai